Hi, this is Jennifer with Make My Heart Smile, and today I'd love for you to crochet along with me. This is a series of crochet lessons where you'll learn beginner basic to easy to intermediate level crochet skills. So check out my other tutorials in this series to see more, and written instructions will always be in the description below. But today's lesson, friends, is the double crochet stitch, one of the more well-known basic crochet stitches. And so I'm excited to teach it to you today. Let's get started. The materials you'll need, as always, if you've seen my first 3 lessons, are scissors, darning needle if you are planning to do a project to practice, and definitely for our lesson today, you're going to need a crochet hook, of course, and a stitch marker. I'm using my favorite type of yarn in teaching you how to crochet. I highly recommend you be using a tube-like yarn. If you're using a worsted weight yarn, that's fine too. Let me know in the comments below how you like using tube-like yarn, maybe compared to an acrylic yarn. I would love to know. And my favorite color is green. So this is Hobby Lobby's Yarn Bee brand, Beginner Bee tube-like yarn in just the color green. On camera, it looks a little more turquoise, teal, but here at my craft table, it is a Kelly green. And I am using a 6 or J6, my boy brand hooks, say 5.75 millimeter, but a J size is perfect for learning, and that's what I've been using in our crochet lessons. All right, so in learning the double crochet stitch, I hope that first you have been practicing, of course, slip knot, chaining, and of course the single crochet stitch. And my lesson 3 was on the half double crochet stitch. You're going to see some similarities to that, but we're going to use the single crochet stitch in the project, the practice project, at the end of this lesson. So bonus material coming up. And so let's start by reviewing or refreshing, making a slip knot, chaining, and doing a single crochet foundation row. And I'm going to show you a little bonus tip as well when we do that single crochet foundation row. So keep watching. As you know, this is how I make a slip knot. And if you need more detailed instruction on that, you can check out my very first lesson video. All right, so there's our slip knot on the hook. We're holding everything correctly. We're in a comfortable position so our tension won't be too tight or loose. And we are going to chain, let me see, let's chain 13. And let's make these pretty loose, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. Okay, and as you know, that's a yarn over and pull through to make those chains, and you should see those telltale V's going along our chain. Now let me show you something. Now, as we've been making foundation chains, I have been having you go into the back loop only to insert your hook. But there is another spot you can insert your hook. So if we turn over our chain, our beginning chain, on the back you're going to see these bumps. See these bumps on the back? So the V on the front and the bump on the back. And you should have as many bumps as we have chains. So remember, don't count that slip knot, but you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Underneath the working yarn there is your 13th bump, okay? And then our working loop on the chain, on the hook. So we're going to insert our hook into those bumps. Now this can be a little fiddly because they might be a little tight. So if your chains are any tighter than this, frog it, undo it, do a looser chain of 13, and then join me back here. But we're going to insert our hook in the second bump. So this is our first bump, which can get kind of lost sometimes. Let's see if I can get that to focus. Okay, so we don't want that first bump, we want the second bump, and we're going to make some single crochets into this bump. Now, when you go to insert, it might be a little tricky. I sometimes use my index finger on my right hand to kind of wedge my hook under there. Okay, insert it, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then pull through 2 loops to make that single crochet. Again, if you need a refresher on single crochet, that's my second lesson. Okay, so now we're going to look for that next bump on the back. I call them bumps. Okay, let's go along. I'm going to show you the cool effect that this has on our foundation chain at the end. Now, if this is proving to be too frustrating for you, you can always do a regular foundation chain with single crochets across 12 stitches here, chain of 13 with 12 stitches, if you find this too frustrating. So when you insert your hook into that bump, make sure you're not going through wonky things, but you're going through just that bump. And if you need to kind of use your thumb to wedge it under there, you can do that. So I'm going to go across. We're just making single crochets along the back bumps of the chain all the way back for a total of 12 single crochet stitches. And again, if you want to just go into the back loop of the chain as normal as we've been doing it, that's fine. I just wanted to show you that sometimes when you're doing a project and you want your edge to have a more finished look, this will create that for you on your foundation chain. And I will show you the difference between the two, doing it as normal into the back loop or in these back bumps. So there's my last back bump, and I'm just kind of using my index finger to kind of get that hook through there. So there's my last one, and as you know, we always tighten that little slip knot, and then we're going to count. Yes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And as you know, this one can be kind of hidden. 12. So let's put our stitch marker there to hold that stitch under the front loop and the back loop. Okay. Remember, you can use a paper clip if you don't have these handy dandy little stitch markers, but go buy yourself a pack. They're great to have, and I have a bunch of them because you know I've lost some of these. They're very easy to lose, but very inexpensive to get at any craft store, so highly recommend those. So there's our 12 single crochet stitches in our foundation row, but check this out. When we turn it upside down to look at the bottom of that foundation row, it does look like a braid, or it does look like, you know, the top, because we've basically worked into the back bump of our initial chain. This is our initial chain, okay? It got pushed down by working into the back bump to make our single crochet foundation chain. Now let me show you. This was the very first one we did in lesson 2 when we did our single chaining and single crochet stitches. And this was our chain. If you can see, you don't see the V's on the bottom of it because we had worked into the back loop of the V's to make our first row of single crochets. Okay, so if you want your project to have more of a finished look, you know, because as you're going along on your project, back and forth, and then you say, okay, this little coaster that I'm making, or this scarf, I'm finished with it. And so this would be what your last row would look like at the top, right? And you would finish off and be done. Well, if you want the bottom of your work to look the same and have that look, then you're going to want to work into the back loop or that back bump on your foundation chain to start with. Otherwise, this will be your last row, let's say, on your project, and your bottom will look like that, which is just more of more of a, I don't know, more of a straight line. I can get that to focus. There we go. So it doesn't have that braiding effect. Okay, so that's just a little tip. All right, so we're going to go ahead. We've got our refresher on single crochet stitches, and so now let's learn the double crochet stitch. Okay, how to form a double crochet stitch. Now, guess what? Single crochet stitch and double crochet stitch are named as such because basically we're going to, in essence, stack two single crochets on top of one another in one stitch. That's why it's called the double. Okay, so in order to do that, we're going to have to raise our work up to that level that stitch will be going across our row going back. So for single crochets, we chain one and then turn and start our new row. So our turning chain is 1. But for double crochet, our turning chain is going to be 2. Okay, because the double crochet is double the single crochet. So we're going to have to make 2 turning chains. So 1, 2 chains. Okay, and that's going to lift our hook up to the height of what this double crochet stitch is going to be like. So now we're going to turn our work. Okay, our tail should be hanging down. Get your fingers repositioned to hold your work. And let's look at what is going to happen for this double crochet stitch. We have now come up 2 chains, 1, 2. Okay, so as you know, we've got our working loop on our hook, and we've got those 2 chains. Okay, and then our first stitch would be right here. Right here. Okay, so technically we never count what's on our hook. Okay, so technically we're going to work into the 3rd chain from the hook. That would be not what's on our hook. Okay, that would be 1, 2, 3. And if you look here at this, this actually is the top of that first single crochet that we made. Okay, so do not work into any of these for your first double crochet stitch. Okay, all right, so now that I've pinpointed that, I'm going to pinch that with my thumb to remember that that's where my hook is going to go into. That's where we're going to insert our hook to start our first double crochet stitch. But as with the half double crochet stitch, we're going to yarn over first. So we're going to yarn over, and then we're going to insert our hook from the 3rd chain from the hook. Okay, so right into here. Under both V's, as we've done to learn any new stitch so far. Okay, under both loops of the V. Okay, so then you should have, as you know, 3 loops on your hook. And now we're going to yarn over, and we're only going to pull through the first 2, as we do with, let's say, a single crochet stitch, right? You yarn over and pull through 2, and your stitch is pretty much finished. But for a double, once we pull through those first 2, we still have 2 left on the hook. So we're going to yarn over again and pull through the last 2 loops. Okay, so that was our first double crochet stitch. Let me show and explain that again. We yarn over first, we insert into the next V, okay, underneath front and back loop. Pull up a loop, and you should have 3 on your hook. We're going to yarn over and pull through the first 2. Yarn over again, pull through the next 2 or the last 2. Okay, let's try that again. Yarn over to begin, insert your hook, pull up a loop. 1, 2, 3 on our hook. We're going to yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the last 2. So it's like you're doing 2 single crochet stitches stacked on top of each other. And so that's a pretty tall stitch. Look at that. It's double the height of a single crochet stitch. And that's why we have a turning chain of 2 and not 1. Okay? And you're going to see some space in between the stitches too. Okay, it's a taller stitch. So here we go again, yarn over. Oh, where are we inserting our hook? Right here in the next, under the next V. Pulling up a loop, yarning over. Oh, and you might want to pull through all 3 like a half double crochet stitch. Don't do that. Just the first 2. Lift up your hook again to reveal those last 2 loops. Yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops. Okay, you're doing great. Again, if you need to reposition your hands or loosen up your tension or just take a minute, undo and start again, you can do that. You're doing great. Let's practice that again. Yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over again, pull through the last 2. Okay, that's why it's called the double crochet stitch. You're doing double the work as you would do for a single crochet. Yarn over to begin, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the last 2. Look at that. Doesn't that create such a cool looking effect in your work? All right, let's keep going all the way back down the row. Yarning over first, remember, and then doing the 2 parts of the stitch. Where you pull up a loop and you pull through the first 2, and then you yarn over again and pull through the last 2. You're doing great. Yarn over, insert your hook, and complete your next double crochet. I'm going to finish this row, and I hope you've put in a stitch marker to know where your last stitch is. Yarn over, insert the hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the last 2. And here's my last stitch because I've put my stitch marker there and I know that that is the last V I'm going to insert my hook under. Yarn over, pull through the last 2. Okay, and then there is our corner. Okay, so looking at the structure of the stitch, you should see a taller stitch. And if you pull your work apart, that really shows you that we've got our single crochet stitches and our double crochet stitches. Okay, it almost has a twisted look to it. Now this is considered the right side of our work, okay? And the stitch is going to look different than our wrong side, okay? There's a right side and a wrong side. Not that it's right or wrong, it's just, in my mind, the one side and the front side and the back side, let's say. It doesn't mean that the structure or the texture or the look is right or wrong, bad or good. It's just different, okay? So this would be a typical, if you saw a picture in a pattern, let's say, of a double crochet stitch, this is what you're going to see, okay? And then this would be the back or the wrong side. In a project, it might be the side you don't like as much. That would be the side you may not see. Let's say if you were doing a pillow, and if you stuffed it, you would want this to be the side everyone sees on the pillow, and this would be kind of the inside of the pillow. Okay, so we're going to add that to our note card at the end of the lesson as an abbreviation you might see in a pattern where they talk about the right side and the wrong side. But as we work rows going back and forth, we do need to chain and turn. So we've come to the end of our row, and again, for double crochet stitches, we've got to raise our hook up for the next row by 2. So we're going to chain 2, 1, chain again, 2, and then turn our work. Okay, so now we're looking at that wrong side. And we're not going to forget that stitch marker. At this point, you might just want to get started, and as you're practicing, you just get going, and then you realize, oh, I didn't mark my stitch. Just get in the habit of after each row, as you're learning, to count those stitches, okay? So coming back from here, we just did our 2 turning chains, right? So we're not going to count those. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We chain 13 to begin, and we have 12 stitches in our rows. We don't want that to get off track. We want 12 stitches in each row for practice today. Okay, so working back, let's do another row. So we've got our 2 chains, our turning chain. We're going to work in that third chain, 1, 2, 3. Third chain from the hook, yarn over and insert your hook under the whole V, front and back loop of that. Pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over again, pull through the last 2. You should always end with just 1 loop left on your hook. That's when the stitch is over. You've completed it. Yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the second 2, the last 2. There's your double crochet stitch. Let's practice that going back across the row. And you should find a rhythm. At this point, you've been practicing through 2 stitches, single crochet and half doubles. And so double crochet stitch, really you should be used to yarning over to start, like with a half double, and finding a rhythm and holding your work and keeping a tension that is consistent. Again, it's really easy to put down your work, right? Maybe get some more yarn, and then when you pick it up again, you should assume that correct position. That way your tension won't be too tight or too loose once you pick up your work to start again. So it's always a good idea, in my mind, to end a row. You'll know where you've ended. It's much more difficult when you're just learning to stop what you're doing in the middle of a row, because you're more likely to miss a stitch. And you'll know if you've missed a stitch. Something won't look consistent. And do not feel bad for having to frog, meaning undo your work. Frogging just means you pull your hook out and you just undo. And that's what's so great about crochet, is that mistakes will happen, and yet pulling out and starting again is not a big deal. And believe me, you might be tempted to be like, oh, I don't care if I missed a stitch. It's fine. It'll look fine. Oh, did you see what I just did? I just did a single crochet. See? So when I got to talking, I lost track. So there might be distractions where you might not be paying attention, and that happens to us all. So you need to really be focusing on what you're doing and not feel bad about frogging and having to redo, because when you get to the end of your project or practice rows, you will care. You will care that there is a missing stitch, or that you miscounted and actually put two in one stitch or skipped one altogether. And so before you get to the end, that's when you undo and frog. Okay. And believe me, I've been tempted to want to just keep going and never mind it. But then I get to the end and I don't feel right about it. So even when you're practicing, you want things to look consistent. Okay. So there's our 2 rows of double crochet stitches. As you can see, they're tall and they do leave kind of a space in between the stitches as compared to single crochet stitches or half double crochet stitches. And that's because they're taller, but that also leads to getting to maybe do some projects where you work into that space. Okay, and of course we'll look at those kinds of things in later subsequent lessons. But for right now, we are practicing the basic double crochet stitch. And I know I've come to my last because my stitch marker is there. If not, then I might have thought I was done. Okay, so those stitch markers really help. So yarn over, insert, pull up, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the last 2. Okay, so this is what it should be looking like. And that, if you've noticed, your foundation chain might be a little tight compared to what you just finished. And that's why making, like I told you, I sometimes crochet a little tight, making that foundation chain looser than you might think will help with that stretching. Okay, now, as with half double crochet stitches, let me show you. Chain 2 and turn. You have 2 options for a double crochet stitch. Well, 3, I guess. You have 3 options, I would say, for where to insert your hook to create different effects or textures in your finished project. And so you've got your back loop, front loop, so into the back loop only, or front loop only, or you could go under, well, always, the standard option is always under both V's, or under the V, under, I say both V's, but I mean both front and back loop under the whole V. That's always an option, okay? Or back loop or front loop. Or, if you look at your stitch, you could go into that space right here. That's really going to create a different look for you, but some patterns have that. So as you're practicing, you might choose, I think I'm going to practice with the front loop since I haven't really showed you that yet. So again, for double crochet stitch, we're going to work into the 3rd from the hook. 1, 2, 3. Yarn over and insert into that front loop only. That means I'm going up underneath that front loop. Oh, see if I can show you. Right, yep, under the front loop. And finish the double crochet stitch. Okay. And if you do a few of those under just the front loop, kind of coming up underneath that loop to insert your hook. We'll get some more yarn here. Okay. So yarn over, and I'm going to go into my next stitch. Double crochet stitches are long, so be careful you're not going back into the stitch you just worked. Look to the next. Look to the next V. Front loop. I'm going to go up underneath of it, yarned over, and I'm going to insert my hook up underneath of it and finish my double crochet stitch. Yarn over, up underneath of it. That's front loop only. Okay, and if I turn the work, As we go along this row, you're going to see a line, and that's where the back loops are just left because they're not being worked into. And so across this row, there's going to be this really cool kind of effect going across. Okay? And that would be front loop only. For double crochet stitch, there is no third or side loop like a half double crochet. Okay? So your choices are back loop, front loop, under both, or possibly down into the space between the stitches. Okay? All right, so you'll notice that our work is growing quite fast because double crochet stitches are quite tall, and so you'll be able to finish a project maybe faster than if you were doing just single crochet stitches. Let me show you a project that you might work on to practice. Dishcloths and washcloths made with cotton are a great practice where you then have something you can use and rewash and reuse made out of cotton yarn. And I'm all about reduce, reuse, recycle. And so a dishcloth or washcloth might be a fun project to do. Let me show you how you might do the crunch stitch for a dishcloth or a washcloth. So I'm going to get some yarn here. I'm going to use blue. This is a really pretty blue in that tube yarn. And here is your little bonus pattern. So to do the crunch stitch washcloth or dish rag, you're going to use these same tools that we've been using. And I would recommend a cotton yarn, complete cotton yarn, if it's going to be used and reused and washed and dried in the washing machine and the dryer. So you want to start with an odd number of chains, so slip knot, and then you want an odd number. And so for the sake of this, I'm just going to do 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 chains to start. So you want an odd number of chains to start. And then you're going to basically alternate between single crochet stitch and double crochet stitch. So if you are an advanced beginner right now and you want to challenge yourself in practicing, this is going from single crochet to double crochet every other stitch. So it's really going to challenge your brain to remember that yarn over first when you do the double crochet stitch. So skip 2. So we're going to single crochet into the third loop from the hook. In this case, I'm going to go into the back loop only because it's my foundation chain. Okay, and just do a single crochet, and then you're going to do a double crochet, so yarn over into the next stitch. Again, back loop only for our foundation row here. This is a double crochet, so I'm going from single crochet to yarning over and doing a double crochet in the next. And this is going to create a pattern a texture that looks like, I don't know, it's called the crunch stitch, where we're just alternating single crochet. Oh, see, I was talking and I wasn't thinking. I just did a double crochet. So now I'm going to do a single crochet, which is no yarn over to begin, and then yarn over and do a double. So if you really want to challenge yourself, this would be the pattern you might try. And then you're always going to end with a single crochet stitch. So at the end of the row, it starts with a single crochet stitch and it ends with a single crochet stitch. If your work ever curls like this, no biggie, especially with this tube yarn, just stretch it out. Okay, so I'm going to chain 2. So you're always going to chain 2 at the ends of each rows. So it starts with a single crochet, ends with a single crochet. You alternate single crochet, double crochet, single crochet, double crochet. And when you get to the ends of each row, you chain 2 and turn. 1, 2, 3, third chain from the hook, single crochet to start. And now that I'm not on my foundation row anymore, I'm just going to go under both loops, front and back loop of the V. So single crochet to start, then double crochet, and then single crochet, and then double crochet as that yarn over to start. Sorry, my yarn is getting all tangled here. Okay. And then single crochet, and then double crochet. 1, 2. So double act there. 1 single crochet to end the row. And as you can see, I'm not counting or using my stitch marker, which is not advisable. But because this is just a little example, I'm going pretty fast. And so if you look, you're going to see these kind of clusters, okay, where the double and single crochet stitches kind of go together. Yeah, if you pull it apart, you can see those clusters. 3 of them, you see those? And so that kind of creates a really great texture for a dish rag or washcloth. On a dish rag or washcloth, you want holes. You want this space so that it can dry out if you leave it to air dry. Okay, you don't want it too close textured. Okay, so that's the crunch stitch. You might try that as you're practicing. I hope you've enjoyed learning the double crochet stitch. Practice, practice, practice. Remember to like and subscribe if this is the first time you are watching. And let's look at what we might, I almost forgot. If you've been following along with our lessons, I've had to go to the back of my note card for our little notes. And so the abbreviations that we have today are DC is what you're going to see in patterns for double crochet stitch. Right side, wrong side. So you might write those down, or however you've been keeping notes as we've gone along in our lessons. Okay? And keep practicing and have fun with it. Happy crocheting. I'll see you next time.